What up everybody, Cult Nerdy Core, back in with another video, and this one is going to be another collection video. As always, these mark kind of the yearly anniversaries of the starting of my channel, so I just like to take the time to say thank you for all the subscriptions, all the likes and comments and interactions on all my videos. I really appreciate it. This will not be the only collection video I upload this year. This will be a small one. As you can tell, this is my PS5 one, and then my bigger PS4 one will be released sometime next week. As I said, this will be a rather small video. My PS5 is one console I have only gotten recently. This is kind of the first year of my collection being displayed. I don't have the money that some other collectors have out there, so I kind of buy when stuff goes on sale. I bought a couple games when they first release, but mainly I'm waiting for the prices to drop on some of these games, so you'll see the small starting of my collection. What I actually think was kind of unique about it is this is the first collection you guys are going to see from the start to finish. So you'll see this first year, you'll see the second year, the third year, you'll see all the updates as they go. So it'll be the most interesting collection to see grow if you're into that. Also, if there's any other PS5 collectors out there that have some recommendations of games I haven't picked up yet, especially ones that are not full price and I could get for a deal, definitely let me know in the comments below. And without further ado, let's just get right into the video. Alright, first up we have Assassin's Creed Valhalla. This is a Assassin's Creed game that's one of the more modern takes, where it's kind of more of a hack and slash mixed with a stealth game. This is my first go at the new style Assassin's Creed games. I never played Odyssey or the Egyptian one that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head. But I heard those ones were the better ones out of these three. I actually really enjoyed this game. I haven't played, as I said, since the change up in the style of these games, and I enjoyed the fresh take on it. I also thought the more action oriented, like hack and slash combat, really fit the Viking style of these games, so I really didn't play it as a stealth game too much. I enjoyed it. It's a little long, so if you don't like a longer game, this wouldn't be for you. It gets a little repetitive, but if you enjoy the content that's in the game, you'll enjoy it just like I did. I'd probably give this like an 8.5. Alright, next up is Deathloop. This is an interesting game. It's probably one of the more unique games I've played in a while, at least in terms of the idea behind it. So basically you play as a assassin who's going through the same day over and over and over again. Like if any of you have seen Happy Death Day, the movie, it's kind of the same concept as that, and you're trying to figure out how you can kill a bunch of targets in one day loop to end this cycle that you're in. It's made by the same people that made Dishonored, so it kind of has that vibe and feel of like the powers mixed with first person shooter combat. It really relies heavily on stealth mechanics. Overall, it was an interesting game. The combat's pretty good. The story is a little hit or miss. Some parts were interesting, other parts just felt tedious, and going through the days over and over and over again gets a little repetitive, I would say. Definitely an interesting game. I definitely had a good time playing through it. Just near the end it got a little repetitive and I just kind of wanted to put it down, but I did end up beating it. I'd probably give this game a 7. Alright, next up is Far Cry 6. As I would say with most Far Cry games, you're getting the kind of same formula. So if you know what any of the other Far Cry games are, this is what this is. But for those of you who don't know, Far Cry is kind of a first-person open-world RPG. Basically, you play, specifically in this one, as these two are the bad guys. You're hunting down and getting rid of their dictatorship. You kind of go through different areas, getting different allies, gaining different allies and support, kind of growing and slowly taking over a map. Then you eventually deal with him. Combat's good. I think the Far Cry games specifically benefit a lot from the jump in the actual consoles itself. The environments look a lot better. The combat, I think, compared to at least 3, feels a lot smoother. And the same good customization, buddies, some funny side quests in there are still there. It's just a solid Far Cry game. I would also give this game a 7. Alright, next up was actually one of my most anticipated games for the PS5 when it was initially announced. This game got delayed from being an actual release game, which was the game I was planning to actually pick up on release. This is Ghostwire Tokyo. So how I would describe this game, it's kind of like almost a first-person ghost power game that is kind of similar to the Far Cry kind of rinse and repeat formula, where you slowly take over areas. Those areas unlock new quests. You do the quest, you upgrade your character, you do some customization options in terms of which weapons you want to use. Rinse, repeat, go around collecting stuff and advance the story. It's in that way similar. What I think this game does well is I think the concept and the enemies and the environment, the sound design and the atmosphere that this game nails is really awesome. And honestly, for me, I think the atmosphere, the sound design, and the kind of lore, the pre-existing lore it touches on, was the reason I kept playing through this game. Because honestly, the story is kind of weak sauce in my opinion. It's really just generic. Bad guy, take sister, go find sister, couple of very easy to tell twists, and then a couple okay boss fights which kind of just nail down to shoot weak spot's done, boss dies. It's a first person shooter game, but instead of it being like a shooter, it's powers. The most annoying thing I found about this game was that you had to go around collecting so much. It felt like a first person shooter game that half the time you're spending doing fetch quests or fetching stuff around the open world. So it got a little repetitive, but overall I think the concept itself, the sound design, and the atmosphere carry this game really hard. So I'd probably give it like a 6.5. Alright, next up we got Hitman 3. I'm actually a really late bloomer into getting into these games. This was actually my first introduction to the series. Honestly, I'm really glad that I decided to pick it up. It's honestly one of the games on my PS5 that I still go back to and play constantly. There's just so much replayabilities in these games. For those of you who don't know about these games, it's a third-person stealth game where instead of going through shadows, trying not to get seen, like something like a Splinter Cell, the goal is to take over people's kind of disguises and fit into the world itself and blend in, and then strike when nobody's around or nobody's expecting. And what these games do so well, specifically these new iterations of the franchise, is the replayability in these games are fantastic. They give you these big sprawling open levels with so many different ways to go around to killing your targets that I found myself going back and trying to complete all the different ways possible to kill each target. So it's a lot of fun, highly recommend it. I'd probably give this game a 9. Alright, next up is Hot Wheels Unleashed. I actually made a review for this game on the channel. It's a pretty solid racer. If you're into kind of kart racers, but you don't like the powers, I would say this is a game for you. It kind of reminds me of a cross of a Need for Speed game mixed with like a Mario Kart. What this game excels at is the amount of cars in the game, the amount of different variety of tracks, and how it nails that feeling of like the size and scale of the Hot Wheels. It really just feels like you're playing with a bunch of Hot Wheel cars on a track, like that somebody just threw in their basement or their house or something like that. That part's really cool. The gameplay itself can get a little boring compared to other racers where you can't do like super flashy tricks, you can't activate a bunch of different powers, you can't slam people off of stuff to gain like boost or do these crazy takedowns or stuff like that. It's kind of just a very drift and clean racing relying racer. So if you're into that, this would be a game for you. I would say it's a pretty solid racer, and I'd probably give it a 7. Alright, next up is actually one of the series I recently got into that I've kind of fallen in love with, and that is Judgment. For those of you who don't know about these games, they are made by the same people who made Fist of the North Star and the Yakuza games. It follows Yagami here. He's a ex-lawyer who becomes a detective, and you follow him through this. It's one of those ones I don't want to spoil too much about it, but you follow him in his journey to unravel this mystery that surrounds one of the cases he previously worked. It's a really entertaining, dark story. So if you're not into dark, more mature content, I wouldn't recommend this game. But if you are into that or are fine with it, this is a fantastic game. If for those of you who have played the Yakuza games, the fighting styles and fighting systems, the exact same almost from those games. It has different styles specific for Yagami. But the combat system and the feeling of the combat is very similar to Yakuza, so it's really solid. Also, the same great boss fights, side quests, open world elements, mini games. You can get like girlfriends, take them on dates, play mini games with them. You can interact with a bunch of different allies that you can get their friendship up, then become friends with them. Then they interact with you around the city. You can have ones that help you in fights. You can have ones that give you certain bonuses or discounts and stuff like that. So there's a lot of value and time you'll get out of this game. Honestly, one of my favorite games that I've picked up for the PS5, and I really, really enjoyed getting into this series. I'd probably give this game a 9 as well. And I like the series so much, I had to pick up the second one in the series. This is actually the game I am currently playing through. I'm really enjoying the main story. I would say this is the weaker one out of the two, mainly because the side quests are not nearly as good as the previous game. The story is fantastic in this game, the main story. The combat's actually improved a lot in this game. They added a third style, and in my opinion, it's the most fun style out of the three. They introduce a new type of side missions where you kind of play a bunch of different mini games that have their own side missions within them that connect to. You're investigating a school mainly, so you interact by being like a student counselor or teacher for a bunch of different clubs, and each club has a certain mini game that's associated with them. So you go through and you level up, and you go through all these different mini games levels to gain rep with these clubs, and they have their own little story with them, which is also my biggest gripe with this game, is that there's one specific club for me, which is the robotics club. Their mini game's horrible. It's like 70% luck, 30% a ton of grinding and playing it correctly. So I lost interest in that. It's the only mini game thing I have not done. So I'm not going to be able to finish one of the main sub-story plots in the game because of it, which is kind of annoying. But main story, combat, I think are actually probably better in this game. So I'd probably give this game like an 8.5 or something like that. Alright, next up we have Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. This was a really fun playthrough. I always enjoy picking up a Ratchet and Clank game. They always seem to, even if it's not one of the better ones in the series, they always seem to keep me entertained and having a blast while playing it. This one is no exception. I actually really enjoyed this one. So for those of you who haven't heard about Ratchet and Clank, it's basically a third-person platformer shooter with some hack and slash combat mixed in. What these games succeed on so well is the amount of weapons you can get, the upgrades you can get for them, and the fun you can have mixing matching different weapons and combinations together. Also, the graphics and the sound design in this game is fantastic. This is probably the first game I picked up on the PS5 where I was like, dang, like these graphics look really good, and I can definitely tell this is on a newer console. Like, especially the animations for the cutscenes are incredible in these games. Main story is fun. The other wombat, I forget her name, and Ratchet and Clank, and there's another robot as well. They are great characters. They do their jobs well, and I think the interaction between the two is actually pretty interesting. The story just kind of pushes the combat along, and the combat and the funny like one-liners definitely carry these games. fantastic series, a fantastic addition to the series. I'd probably give this game somewhere like an 8. Alright, next up is Spider-Man Miles Morales. I enjoyed this game. I think the combat is great, just like the first game. All the stuff that was fantastic in the first Spider-Man game is great in this. The combat's great, the open world city is great, the web swinging is fantastic, the combat feels smooth, the combos work, his unique power that they give him I actually enjoyed. The upgrades to the suits are fun. He has a bunch of really cool suits that's fun to go around and collect them all. My only issue with this game is how short it is. Like the other Spider-Man game's short, this game is like almost could have just been DLC short. Probably if you were to just go main story and not go around trying to like 100% everything, like all the mini games and stuff like that and side objectives, you could probably bang this out in like 7-8 hours, which I think is a lot for the price they're asking for these games. But overall, like, the quality is still there. I enjoyed it. The story I find is a little more predictable and cheesy in this one. I was really interested off the start when they initially introduced the bad guys that would be in the game. I thought it was going to be really interesting and cool. And then as it gone along, it was kind of just, I don't know, it felt like all the puzzle pieces just fell into place really quickly, and it was, the first twist was good, and then it was just like very easy to see twist, very easy to see twist, very easy to see twist, and it kind of played it super safe after that, in my opinion. The boss fights were okay. I think the boss fights are better in the first game. But overall, like, I enjoyed the game. I just thought it was really short for the price that they asked for these games. So I'd probably give it like a 7. Alright, so there you have it. That is my PS5 collection for 2022. So this one will be the unique collection that you guys actually get to see from start to finish in terms of the growth. I know this video was a short video for a collection video from me. My longer one for the PS4 will be out next and soon. I just wanted to kind of put these two together and release them kind of back to back, because I know this one was really short and the next one's a longer one, so I figure it's a good combination. Also, I'm really going to be focusing on PS5 collection along with the PS4 and PS3 mainly. So I wanted to get my initial first year of collecting video out, just to show you guys where my base collection is at the moment. Hope you guys still enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments what you think of the video, my little collection that I have so far, and what games you think I should add on to it. Thanks again for watching. Remember, everybody has some nerdiness at their core.